AEW had their biggest show of the year, AEW All In Texas, in Arlington at Globe Life Field, the home of the Texas Rangers, the 2023 World Champion Texas Rangers. And I would think, by all accounts, it was a success. I was there. Someone else that was there joins me now on the hotline. You read his stuff on the Takedown on Sports Illustrated. He's also on the SNY Network, and he does the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy podcast with Matt Hardy. It is my good friend, Jon Alba. Jon, it's good to see you. I heard you were telling me before we started travel issues, so you didn't actually get home till yesterday. But have you at least started to recover from the weekend?
Yeah. Recovery is subjective in that sense, I would suppose, but enough to get on here and hop and chat with you. So I appreciate the time, and it was a good time in Dallas. I really did have a good time. It was good seeing you. It was good seeing so many people that haven't seen in a long time, you know?
Yeah, it was great to see everybody there, and
That was the first AEW event I've traveled for since 2022, actually.
okay.
I did the math, and yeah, 2022, and I was at almost every single one prior to that. So I was racking it in my head. I'm like, oh wow, it's been a long time since I've traveled for an AEW event. So it was a good time.
Well, let's start way I usually start these. Give me a letter grade for AEW All In Texas.
I mean, I thought it was a strong B plus event overall. You know, a little bit of a weak undercard. I felt like nothing was bad on the undercard by any means, but I think there was definitely some stuff that just sort of existed for the sake of existing, and maybe never got to the level of some of the very best of the stuff on this show. And I think it also wasn't necessarily aided by something that happened in one of the featured main events that I'm sure we'll talk about. But I thought there, of the four main event matches, three of them really, really delivered. And when that happens, maybe it's an A minus. Maybe I was being a little too harsh. Maybe it's an A minus. And I also felt like some of the pacing of the card over the 6 hour show was a little, maybe not necessarily threaded in the way that I would have done so personally. But all things considered, what matters most to is that people leave happy. And without a doubt, that is exactly what happened on the show.
Yeah, and I agree with the A minus. I think obviously the length of the show, 6 hours, if you count just the main pay per view. Um, and the pacing was it wasn't bad. There was probably a couple spots they could have
Yeah,
redone, and I
I just
don't.
would have reordered some of the card more
Yeah,
than anything else.
yeah,
But overall, I thought the show delivered a happy ending, and that's when it comes to big payoff shows that have months in the building. That's what you need to do, because if it didn't end on a happy note, then you got 30,000 people there who are pretty upset. And
yes.
I was at WrestleMania 39. I don't know. I don't remember if you were or
I was
not.
there
You were
as
there.
well.
That's
Yeah,
right. And that's right. You were there with Connor Casey and I. And it was just leaving that venue. It was like a funeral. So
yeah.
I'm glad that that wasn't a similar feeling on Saturday.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, let's talk about the main event. And as I put out, our national nightmare is over. Jon Moxley taps out after being choked with the chain. Hangman Adam Page frees the belts from the briefcase. He is your new AEW World Champion. Couple of nice touches. First of all, the chain he gets from, of all people, Swerve Strickland. And then when he takes the belt out of the briefcase, it still had Bryan Danielson's side plates on it from when he lost it to Moxley back in October. Um, we've already talked about it. This is the ending that had to happen. It was going to be that. Was there anything in that match that you would have changed the run-ins? I wrote down Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli, Will Ospreay, Gabe Kidd, Bryan Danielson, Young Bucks, Darby Allin, Prince Nana, and Swerve as the run-ins. And I think we all kind of figured Tony was going to do this because I think in my mind, I have nothing to base this on, but in my mind, he wanted Hangman to have the same moment there that Cody had at WrestleMania 41. Give me your thought.
WrestleMania 40. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's obvious parallels to be had, needless to say, and the stories were set up in a very similar arc towards the end that allowed for that. But the biggest thing when you do these run-ins, right, in these bloodline rules style matches, is that all of the interferences in those moments have to be earned. They have to be earned, and that's why I didn't love when they did it at Crown Jewel with WWE in the CM Punk and John Cena match because it was like, okay, there are guys who have maybe been involved with some of the Cena crew and the Rollins crew and all that, but like at the same time, it hasn't been that long. They're getting full scale entrances in the middle of the match, and it just didn't feel like you needed that action to get to the end result of the match, right? Whereas I felt like in this, all of the action that we saw aided the ending and the long-term story that was being wrapped in that moment. When you have a match of this magnitude, you have to ask yourself, and you can ask yourself the same thing about the WrestleMania 40 match with Cody.
Mm-hmm.
If this television show, AEW, WWE, whatever, if this show ended today, this was the series finale of AEW, would this be a satisfactory ending to this show as a series? And that's exactly how they delivered it. I like that there were no entrances. It didn't necessarily feel like put one foot in front of the other. Oh, this person has to happen, so now this has to happen. And I like the fluidity of that. The only like minor tweak I probably would have added, I felt like the mountain video was very out of place that played randomly in the middle of the match.
Yes.
And look, if death matches aren't your thing, then all of this is null and void, and it's fine. But
True.
yeah, all things considered, man, I thought they stuck the landing, and the crowd reaction was there for it, and I thought the moment with Swerve was just really, really well done.
It was. It was very well done. Yeah, the Darby Allin on the mountain. I think I don't know if they timed it wrong because it was Darby Allin video, then Bryan Danielson, and then Darby repels from the ceiling. I would have switched that a little bit. What did you think of Will Ospreay getting Pillmanized?
I
They had
so
done
I
it earlier with Samoa Joe, and then
That was the important part. That was the important part, right? Like you had to establish that earlier in the night that the Death Riders were capable of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, it was a bit of a breadcrumb dropped that they could revisit. And yeah, a lot of people are, oh, AEW doesn't tell stories. Well, that's a breadcrumb for a show long story that they told, that the Death Riders were capable of doing this. And I actually like that. And for it to be Osprey, what was effective about that was twofold. It took Swerve away from Osprey in the moment where the focus just had to be on Swerve, right? That was a critical part. But also, it perhaps was a result of Will Osprey's over excitement and eagerness to get involved to show, hey, like you get really eager here. These guys are still killers. They're still badasses. They can take you out. And I thought that served the story pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. And it makes total sense. It really does. Um. Well, let's mention we know tomorrow night on Dynamite it's Mox, Claudio, and I think Wheeler Yuta against Hangman. I forget who the other two are. Oh, Mark Briscoe and Swerve, I think.
The announcement
Yes.
was, yeah, I'll pull up the full announcement. I did see it in passing, yes.
But I mean, past that, what do you think is next for not only Moxley but also the Death Riders? Do they take time off? Do they keep wreaking havoc? What I
I,
mean,
I mean, look, I wouldn't hate if like what we're about to see is the beginning of the end of the Death Riders. I think naturally Moxley and Darby Allin is probably the next way to go. I mean, Darby's the one who really needs to ultimately get the revenge on everything that happened with Moxley, right? Like that's a critical piece of all of this. So I would bet that that's probably where this starts with, and then maybe that is the end. It's Will Hobbs, Hangman, and Mark Briscoe, by the way, versus Yuta, Moxley, and Claudio.
yeah. All right. I mean, and that, yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't mind seeing we start seeing dissension and whatever. Um, honestly, I wouldn't even be that sad if Moxley goes on that postponed fishing trip he was supposed to go on a couple years ago.
3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing that either, but we'll see. Let's talk about the other big title change, and we got to start with Adam Cole. Adam Cole comes out. It was announced early in the day that Adam Cole wasn't going to compete. He could not be medically cleared. So there were going to be a four-way for the TNT Championship. Adam comes out, gives this speech, basically relinquishes the title. Mentioned health issues. I think Fightful Select has reported it. It may be related to concussion issues. And it was just. I mean, I don't know about you. I felt just horribly for him. I mean, we all know him. We have all gotten to know him. He is, besides being one of the best wrestlers around, one of the absolute, genuinely best human beings on this planet. Just give me your thoughts on Adam Cole. As he said, if this is goodbye, he's lived his dream and all that good stuff. Just give me your thoughts on Adam Cole.
Yeah, it's a terribly sad situation. As he said, he's a fantastic dude. He's a great wrestler, responsible for one of the best moments in AEW history when he debuted in 2021. He's one of the best of his era, and it's unfortunate that he's just been so injured and unhealthy the past few years because it's taken away his prime and what he's capable of. Uh, Concussions, if that is the case, that's never something to be messed around with, and they made the right decision. I'm glad they made this decision if that's how he was feeling. I don't think it was an easy decision for him to voluntarily pull off the biggest show of the year. I would imagine it wasn't. So yeah, it's horrible. It's a horrible situation all around. And they really, like, logically you would think that they were probably going to put the title on Fletcher coming out of that match, but after Adam Cole gives that speech, there's no way you can have the crowd down, right? And they were not super into the four-way for most of it because of the speech, not because it was a bad match. It was a buzzkill, right? And
Right.
when Dustin won, that's your boy. When he won, I think it was like, oh, holy shit! Like
Yeah,
that's a feel good moment right there.
it
And I
was.
think that was the right call. And even if Dustin were to lose the title this coming week, it's fine. You get back on track to where you were going. But giving a guy a surprise, it's like when Zack Ryder won the Intercontinental title at Mania out of nowhere, winning that ladder match, right? It's like a cool, unexpected moment that, again, the goal here, send people home happy. And I think it helped do that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It was, obviously, my relationship with Dustin, being part of the Road Wrestling Association, Road Wrestling Academy, having known Dustin all these years, needless to say, it was a beautiful surprise. Of course, having his nephews come out there in Ross and Marshall Von Erich, to help celebrate. And I had seen both Wayne and White as well as Ross and Marshall earlier in the day at Starcast, and
And what a great moment the Von Erich Iron Claw moment was in the
that
pre-show too.
was,
That was super fun. I mean, like you knew it was going to happen, but it was
of
super fun
course,
anyway.
you can't have a show
Yeah,
in Texas and have Kevin Von Erich there. He's got to put the claw on
yeah,
somebody.
that
So
was awesome. That was
that was
awesome.
fantastic. So yeah, congratulations to Dustin. I know he's beat, but everything he said, and we got to visit with him in the press conference afterwards. Knowing Dustin, that's him. He is emotional, and this
The roads are emotional. No way, you're
no,
kidding me.
this means the world to him. He and I have talked many times about his place in AEW and how much he loves Tony Khan and everything. So
That's
this,
the thing. Like he could have left when Cody left, right? Like he could have bounced. He could have had a producer role in WWE. He could have done whatever he wanted to. He could be in NXT and be a great coach there, right? But
Mhm.
he chose to stick around, and I think Tony Khan's taken pretty good care of him for
Yeah.
staying loyal. So all things considered, it's worked out very well.
Tony Storm retaining the AEW Women's World Title of Mercedes Moné. Surprised?
No, not at all, actually. I reported this on my Patreon, WrestlingAccordingToAlba.com, the week of the show, that the plan had been for Tony to retain for some time, and that was why the match was not title for title, because they wanted her to just not win the TBS title, but still be able to retain. And yeah, I thought they delivered a great match, man. I thought that they got, I believe this was the longest AEW women's match to date, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was around 26 minutes.
I think you're
Uh,
right.
Never dragged at any point. Mercedes, when Mercedes gets a chance to really get her matches rolling, they're always paced so well. And I thought the pacing of this match was really, really great. Toni Storm is a big match performer. She never misses in those moments. Mercedes, one of the greatest sellers in wrestling history, and they told a good story. And I don't know how you felt, man, but I felt like Toni Storm was maybe one of the top three most over things on the show in general.
Oh
Just
yeah,
the reactions that Toni Storm was getting were tremendous.
I think you're right. Let me ask you, kind of like with the Death Riders. Okay, so what's next for Mercedes? Does she keep collecting belts, or is this
I'd like to see a
the
little bit
start?
of I'd like to see the armor start to come undone a little bit here with Mercedes. I still feel like the long-term plan with getting that TBS title off of her has to run through Willow, and I hope it does because she won it from Willow. Willow has never had the one-on-one win with her, and they've had great chemistry together. So I think Willow beating the one to dethrone her, the TBS championship, would be the right call.
Yeah. Kazuchika Okada defeating Kenny Omega. He is now the unified champion. He merges the Continental title and the International title. Um, right decision.
The winner
Okada.
or
Yeah, Okada.
yeah, I mean I'm fine with Okada winning the match. That didn't really bother me. What bothered me was just a horrible logic flaw in this match that led to the finish where Don Callis pulls the referee out of the ring, stomps him, and it's somehow not a DQ.
Mm-hmm.
And for a match that had so much hype that didn't need that, it didn't need that gaga at all, right? Like the Okada Omega series is one of the most revolutionary series of matches ever in wrestling. It's a huge reason why I invest in wrestling the way that I have. Because I just fell so much deeper in love with it, seeing how much art was put into those matches. And I did not expect this match to reach any of the other four in terms of quality. It's 8 years later almost. They're older, they're more beat up. But I know that they're masters of their craft. They're great storytellers, and there's no reason that they couldn't have told a great story. And I thought they were telling a really good story with the diverticulitis. It was a very easy match to digest. And I'll tell you, if they delivered a more straightforward finish, I'm thinking I'm looking at this match, it's probably like 4.5, 4.75 star kind of match.
Mm-hmm.
But you knew Callis was going to get involved. That's fine. You don't need to do it in a way that was so overtly a disqualification that it just got overlooked. And I really took the match down quite a bit for me. I was really dissociated from the rest of the match after that happened because I was like, why am I even watching? Like, if the rules don't matter, then what's the point? And, I'll tell you, if you watch the press conference, I think, and this is me opining, I think Tony realized that they made a mistake in how they did that as he was explaining the rules during the
Yeah.
press conference. Like, I think he recognized that there was oversight on that. I could be wrong, but it took away from the match for me. I don't know how you felt about it, but I left just pretty disappointed in that.
Yeah, it kind of, it brought it from, the culmination of one of the greatest rivalries in pro wrestling to almost like just another match. And you're right. I don't think we were going to expect what we saw, say, Dominion 2018 or
Right.
like that. But again, it's still Okada Omega.
And they were both really good in the match.
They were.
It was Okada's best match in AEW.
Yeah. Oh, easily.
But yeah, and
I'll say this. I have not. I mean, Okada has had a good run in AEW so far, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just spoiled with what we saw.
oh no,
Okada
this
in New
dude,
Japan.
what we've gotten from him in AEW is it doesn't even remotely hold a candle to what he had in Japan. It's
And
not even close. Yeah.
and I think he's capable of it. Now, whether he wanted to, do this, the elite and then join it up with Don Callis, whatever, maybe he wants to do it. Maybe it's, kind of like Nakamura in WWE, wants to just ride out the thing so he can go surfing. But I don't know. It just feels like Okada needs to go. He needs to be Okada and not have Don Callis and not have the elite and let AEW fans see the Rainmaker.
Yeah, listen, like if they did this finish where like Don Callis helped him cheat. I don't really care. That's fine. That's wrestling. Heels cheat, right?
Hmm.
But to have such an overt, what should have been a disqualification
Yeah,
and to just ignore it,
yeah,
that really bothered me. That's something that a lot of other promotions would do that I think AEW has the benefit of the doubt of not having a history of overlooking stuff like that. And they totally overlooked it in the biggest moment possible. And maybe they're going to run this match back because now it's 2-2-1, right? Like they're totally even. And maybe they're going to run it back again. But I don't know how you get it on a bigger stage than what you had it here. So I was pretty disappointed by that because it was a good match until that point.
yeah. I agree. MJF and Athena win their respective Casino Gauntlet matches. Um, I think MJF we kind of expected. Athena was a bit of I thought it was a little bit of a surprise. It was a pleasant surprise. Of course, Athena from the Dallas Fort Worth area. She is the current Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. Now she's got a shot at the AEW Women's World Title anytime. Uh any any thought on the Casino Gauntlet matches besides the fact I always enjoy those things.
I didn't like the men's one very much. I actually thought the women's one far surpassed the men's one. It was a
Okay.
lot more physical. There were more surprises. The near falls were a little better. The finish was better. It was a little less predictable. I did think Athena was going to win, but it was still not nearly as certain as MJF winning
Mm-hmm.
for me. Um, and what I liked about Athena winning when she did on the show too, it didn't necessarily telegraph the winner of Tony Storm and Mercedes Moné because you could see Athena facing either of them, right? Like she kind
Right.
of sits in the middle of a tweener where it's like if you need her to be a babyface, she probably can. If you need her to be the heel, she can. So I liked that element of surprise with it. My biggest problem with this match stipulation and having two of them on one show is a lot. It really is, and just like it is for WWE with the two Royal Rumbles
Mm-hmm.
when they do them, but. Um, the issue with the stipulation is that the idea should be you want to be number one or two in the match because, in theory, the match can end at any point.
Mm-hmm.
So, unlike the Royal Rumble where you want to be at the end, and here you want to be in the beginning, they have not set the precedent that the match can actually end early. Like, in theory, you know that it can. But everyone's like, oh, the first two will wrestle, then someone else will come out, then someone else will come out, and someone else will come out. We need to have a Casino Gauntlet. And I wouldn't have done it on this show because the show was so grand in nature, but we need to, at some point, have a Casino Gauntlet where the match ends pretty early.
Yeah,
Whether it's the first two guys or three or four, like within the first five, the match has to end. It should end as someone's making an entrance
I agree.
because then you're telling the audience, hey, these matches truly can end at any point, and we don't need 10 people, 12 people, 15 people. And it makes the entrances and who's coming out even more impactful based on where they show up.
Yeah.
In the men's match, it was a complete. I mean, Mystico had his entire entrance, and he's standing in the middle of the ring, and people are doing like it was funny, but it's like, dude, isn't the whole point of this match sense of urgency, right? And there was just no sense of urgency at all in the men's match. The women's match had much more sense of urgency. I felt like.
Yeah, I think you're right. Uh Swerve Strickland Will Ospreay beat the Young Bucks. So Young Bucks are no longer EVPs. Kind of like with the Death Riders, does this start a path for the Bucks back to I don't know the back to being Matt and Nick instead of Matthew and Nicholas?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, by the end of the death match, it didn't really feel that way, but the Bucks, they are better as heels than they are as baby faces in AEW. I just think the characters maybe need a little bit of tweak, but man, this match, I'm in the camp that the Bucks are some of the greatest pro wrestlers of all time. I think the Bucks are masters at crafting matches, and the great irony being when people watch Bucks matches on the surface level, they just say, "Oh, it's all flips and all this stuff." Man, the Bucks matches have more story and callbacks than pretty much anybody else's matches. Like, and if you're truly paying attention to their feuds or the stories within the promotion, all of these matches are just full of callbacks and big moments. The sequence in the middle of that match that led to that double down was one of the greatest sequences I've ever seen in an American wrestling tag match, like legitimately.
Right.
I thought it was an all-time classic match. I thought it was up there, and not everyone seems to agree with me, but watching it live, I'm going to tape study it on my Patreon this week, wrestlingaccordingtoalba.com. I felt like this was one of the best tag matches in AEW history, period. And did not expect Swerve and Ospreay to win, but they got the happy moment, and hey, that's cool.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at that too. It was good. I'm of the camp. AEW matches, AEW pay per view matches, almost to a single one could lose about 3 to 5 minutes each, just because it felt like it was like, okay, this one it was great. I wasn't a fan of all the false finishes because it
Yeah, but
seemed like
but this
every
but
time.
Stu, but this match had like actual stakes, like there were legitimate stakes on the match, and
And I get that. I get that. I don't know. It just
yeah,
maybe it was just because
it was a long
we've been,
night. It was a long
we've been
night.
there a while. I was like,
It
all
was a
right.
long night.
So Patriarchy turns on Christian Cage after Hurt Syndicate retained the tag titles. Nick Wayne hits the kill switch on Christian Cage, and then here comes Adam Copeland. I suspect this is what they were talking about. The reports about Christian wanted one more angle with Nick Wayne before he started doing the reunion with Adam. Uh, what'd you think?
Yeah, the match itself was fine. Speedball Mike Bailey is like one of the best in the world at getting crowds to fire up for big moments, and he was great in this as he always is. And Kevin Knight's really good too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, it was a pretty convoluted angle, but it was easy to follow, even if convoluted. Copeland comes down, makes a save, and I wanted him to tell him to go himself. I wanted to see him do that. Be like, I wanted it to be he makes the save because he knows deep down it's the right thing that he should do.
Right.
And Christian like is actually somewhat appreciative and like
Then Adam says,
and
yeah,
Adam's like no, like because
yeah,
it's like a tough love sort of thing. Like go fuck yourself and go find yourself.
yeah.
Like that's what I would have done rather than just the corny Disney go find yourself.
Well, and I think there's probably a little bit of tough love in that. All right, you need to fix yourself before you and I talk, or whatever. So I get it.
But I would have brought it full circle though. I would have gone like all the way in on it. And
Yeah, I
I,
think that'd
I
be
can understand why they didn't, but I just was like, man, like you've already reached a certain threshold, so just
true.
ride it.
True. Yeah. All in all, I mean, I think, like we said, I think they had a successful pay per view. It was, man, 6 hours plus 2 hour pre show plus two, a couple hours for the press conference. Anything from the press conference strike you? I know you asked the question about Adam Cole. When did they find out about Adam Cole's health issues? But anything that and otherwise that you took from the press conference?
Not really. If you want my completely honest opinion, not a
I know
lot.
it's there for
Yeah,
content.
I mean, I'll if you want me to go off, I'll go off. And this is not like calling anybody else specifically. I don't even know who asked it. And it's not a personal thing,
Right.
but like if we're there covering a show for 7 hours, 8 hours, whatever it is, and you're asking Athena to her face, does her win feel bigger than Goldberg's retirement? Like, I don't know what we're doing. I really, it's a bad look for everyone. And I understand you're trying to be cheeky and fun, but like, it just was a bad look. And I don't know, man. Like, there are people who go to these shows as media and they don't do a single thing of work and they're just there to watch the show and tweet.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know about you. I turned 5 articles during the show. Like, there are other people around me working, and I don't appreciate those people's time
I
being wasted by a question like that.
I couldn't agree more with you. Look, you and I have done sports media. We've covered NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, whatever. We've learned the rules of being a as objective as possible, reporter or whatever. And I think we both realize wrestling media doesn't have the same.
Well, dude, it's like if you don't want to ask a hard question, a hard hitting question, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But ask a productive question.
Yeah. There are people in there. Well, I seriously think there were those in there that figured out they could do a podcast using the record thing on their phone, and so they're going to call themselves media so they could get the free ticket, and then it's another silly thing, but it means something to me. You come into the press box wearing somebody's merch.
Yeah,
That
not
would be
great.
like me walking into AT&T Stadium, walking in the press box wearing the star.
Yeah, it's not great.
Don't do that.
Not great. Not
But
great.
there's a bunch of them. Like I said, I get it. So, John, promote everything. Tell everybody where they can find you. You mentioned the Patreon. Please tell us about the Patreon and everything else.
No, it's cool, man. WrestlingCornerAlba.com. It's where we do Q&As. We do tape studies every week where we watch matches and break them down and just get through the art of the business a little more. We have an awesome Discord. I drop some scoops there every now and then. It's a really fun time. I highly encourage it. WrestlingCornerAlba.com. Plus, you get live tapings of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, the podcast I host with Matt Hardy, rather, drops every Friday wherever you get your podcasts. If you're in the New York City area, I'm on SNY Sportsnet New York, the TV home of the Mets. So you can find me on Honda Sports Night there or on some select Mets games coverage. And Sports Illustrated, The Takedown. That's where I do pretty much most of my wrestling work. So that's where you can find all my stuff. It's 4 of my 9 jobs, Stu. That's how we do it.
That's what we do. I get it. That's what we do. Jon Alba, I appreciate it, man. It was so good to see you.
Yeah, it was great seeing you, man.
And hope we see each other again soon.
Definitely so.